Magic, White and Black, the science of finite and infinite life. Chapter 7. Consciousness. I am that I am. Bible. Everything in the universe is a manifestation of mind, for the universe itself is an expression of eternal wisdom. Everything, therefore, is mind, possessing consciousness in the absolute and being capable of manifesting relative consciousness. Consciousness in the absolute means unconsciousness in relation to things. Absolute self-consciousness means the full realization of one's own existence as a godlike state of self-existence, independent of any external object, a state of eternal life within one's own light. Self-consciousness means the realization of one's own existence independent of other things, while relative consciousness means the realization of one's own existence with reference to the objects of one's perception. Unconsciousness in the absolute is non-existence, a term without meaning, while relative unconsciousness means ignorance in regard to that of which one does not know that it exists. Consciousness means knowledge and life. Unconsciousness is ignorance and death. An imperfect knowledge is a state of imperfect consciousness in relation to the object of knowledge. The highest possible state of consciousness is the full realization of the truth. Consciousness means existence. Non-consciousness is non-existence and nothing. Self-consciousness is self-existent, independent of any object. Relative existence is the consciousness of the relation between subject and object. A thing has no existence relatively to ourselves before we become conscious of its existence. A person who does not realize his own existence is unconscious and, for the time being, to all practical purposes, as far as he himself is concerned, dead. A state of existence is incomprehensible unless it is experienced and realized, and it begins to be from the moment that it is realized. If a person were the legal possessor of millions of money and did not know it, he would have no means to dispose of it or enjoy it. A man may be present at the delivery of the most eloquent speech, and, unless he hears what is said, that speech will have no existence for him. Every man is endowed with reason and conscience, but if he never listens to its voice, the relation between him and his conscience will cease to exist, and it will die for him in proportion as he loses the power to hear it. Symbols have a meaning to him who understands their meaning, but for the ignorant, nothing but the forms which he sees and feels exist. Their meaning has no existence for him. A man may be alive and conscious in relation to one thing, and dead and unconscious relatively to another. One set of his faculties may be active and conscious, while another set may be unconscious and its activity suspended. A person who listens attentively to music may be conscious of nothing but sound. One who is rapt in the admiration of form is only conscious of seeing. Another, who suffers from pain, may be conscious of nothing but the relation that exists between him and the sensation of pain. A man absorbed in thought may believe himself alone in the midst of a crowd. He may be threatened by destruction and be unconscious of the danger. He may have the strength of a lion. and it will avail him nothing unless he becomes conscious of it. He cannot be immortal unless he becomes conscious of immortal life. The more a person learns to realize the true state of his existence, the more will he become conscious of his existence. If he does not realize his true position, illusions will be the result. If he fully knows himself and his surroundings, he will be conscious of his own powers. He will know how to exercise them and become strong. To become conscious of the existence of a thing is to perceive it. To perceive it means to enter into relation with it and to feel the existence of that relation. Life itself is a manifestation of consciousness. Motion is a manifestation of life. A thing without consciousness of any kind is unthinkable and could not exist. Even the most immovable mountains are states of mind, corporified, eternal thoughts, and as such they are expressions of consciousness. They feel the power of gravitation and speak through the mouth of the echo. The body of our Mother Earth, although devoid of self-consciousness and intellectual reasoning, is nevertheless conscious of the presence of the sun, turning with incredible velocity around its axis. Each of its parts strives to receive the full influence of his light, and after receiving his blessing gives way to another part to be blessed likewise. Stars and planets, worlds and molecules are attracted toward each other, all by the action of eternal love, which could produce no reaction on absolute unconsciousness if such a thing could exist. Absolute self-consciousness belongs only to God. He alone is self-existent and independent of any outside conditions. He is self-sufficient and needs nothing to excite consciousness or knowledge in him. Man's self-consciousness, insofar as the realization of a divine presence has not awakened within him, is as much an illusion on his imaginary self-existence, because it is then not his true real I, but nature that has become self-conscious in him, producing that ever-changing and impermanent sense of the ego, which appears from hour to hour and from day to day, chameleon-like under different attributes. This artificially produced ego is a mere nothing, and one proof of it is that the great majority of people continually require some stimulus to enable them to know that they exist. If they are alone and without pastime, they are miserable. If they are only in company with themselves, they are then in company with nothing. Without an amusement of some kind, they would become insane or die. But he, in whom the divine consciousness of his true inner self has awakened, will require no external stimulus to let him know that he lives. He may be shut up in a prison or in a tomb. He carries his own light with him. He cares little for the company of men if he is in company with his God. Man is an organism in which either God or nature, or the antithesis of God, the devil, may become self-conscious. If only nature is self-conscious in him, he has then no real life or consciousness of his own. It is absurd of him to speak of dying because he has never yet come to life. If God has become self-conscious in him, he will be one with God, whose temple he is. If the self-consciousness of the devil resides in his house, then is he a personal devil for all practical purposes and intents. From the moment that man becomes relatively conscious of the existence of a spiritual power within his soul, he enters into relationship to that power. He attains spiritual consciousness. But it may still be a long time until that power becomes fully alive and self-conscious in him. The vulgar have only the consciousness of the animal within themselves. It is the hog in one that is given to gluttony, the goat in another that is given to lewdness, the tiger in one that kills, the snake in another that stings by the power of calumny, the fox in another from which he receives his cunning. They are houses which the master has never inhabited, or which he has deserted, and which are filled with animals. It is the animals that are living and acting in them. The persons themselves have no life. As everything that exists is of a threefold nature, so there are three modes of perception: the physical perception, the perception of the soul, and the spiritual perception. The former reaches the surface of things, the second the soul, and the third reaches into their innermost centres. To see is to think with the organ of sight. A thought sent to the surface of the object of perception will see only the surface. A thought becoming conscious in the centre will see that which exists at the centre. Everything that exists within the universal mind, and nothing can exist beyond it, because the universal mind includes all, and there is no beyond. Perception is a faculty by which mind learns to know what is going on within itself. Man can know nothing but what exists within his own mind. Even the most ardent lover has never seen his beloved one. He merely sees the image which the form of the latter produces in his or her mind.